Class 10, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. In this part 5 video, we are going to highlight the topics visualizing the nation and nationalism and imperialism. Visualizing the nation. During the 18th and 19th centuries, artists tried to give a face to the nation. For this, they started portraying it as a person, especially a female figure. The female form that was chosen to personify the nation did not stand for any particular woman in real life. Rather, it was done to give a rough idea of the nation as a concrete form. This depiction of female figure as a nation by various artists became an allegory of the nation. Allegory is expressing abstract idea in the form of a person or thing. All this started during French Revolution, where artists used the female allegory to represent ideas like liberty, justice, and the republic. To represent ideas, specific objects were used by the artists. For example, the symbol used for liberty or red cap or the broken chain. For justice is generally a blindfolded woman carrying a pair or weighing scales. So therefore, various female allegories were invented by artists in the 19th century to represent the nation. In France, the female figure which was used to describe the nation was given the name of Marianne. She was drawn with the characteristics of liberty and the republic, that is, the red cap, the tricolor, the cockade. The statues of Marianne were erected at various public places. This was done to remind the public of the national symbol of unity. Marianne images were also marked on coins and stamps. Similarly, in Germany, the female figure used for depicting Germany as a nation came to be known as Germania. Germania is generally shown wearing a crown of oak leaves, as the German oak stands for heroism. Now let's look into the meaning of the following symbols. Broken chain reflects being freed. Breastplate with eagle signifies symbol of the German Empire strength. Crown of oak leaves signifies heroism. sword remarks readiness to fight. Olive branch around the sword shows willingness to make peace, and the black, red, and gold tricolor flag reflects flag of liberal nationalists in 1848, banned by the dukes of the German states, and rays of the rising sun reflects beginning of a new era. So now we know about how the countries got unified and became nation states, and also about personification of these states through female figures. But the question arises that after becoming a nation state, did they continue to be liberal democratic nation or turn into something else? Well, yes, after becoming nation states, the countries began to extend their boundaries in order to increase their power and influence over the other regions of the world. This led to the birth of imperialism. So, what is imperialism? This we will study next under the heading Nationalism and Imperialism. During last quarter of the 19th century, new political change was noticed. Nationalism no longer retained its idealistic liberal democratic sentiment of the first half of the century. Nationalists became highly intolerant towards each other and were constantly in conflict. The major European powers tried to take advantage of this in realizing their goal of imperialism. Imperialism is a policy of extending a country's power and influence with the help of military force or other means. The Balkans was a region of geographical and ethnic variation, comprising modern-day Romania, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Slovenia, Serbia, and Montenegro. The inhabitants were broadly known as the Slavs. Balkans was the region that was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. The spread of the idea of romantic nationalism and the fall of the Ottoman Empire resulted in high tension in the region. All thought the Ottoman Empire tried hard to strengthen itself during 19th century by modernization and internal reforms, but it could not succeed. The regions with European subjects under its control began to separate away from it and formed up as independent states. The Balkan people stressed on independence on the basis that they were once independent nationalities taken over by the foreign powers. Hence, the rebellions start struggling so as to win back independence. As Slavic nationalities struggle to define their identity and independence, by the time Balkan area became an area of intense conflict. The European powers entered into a rivalry with each other so as to establish their trade and colonies in the Balkan region. Powers like Russia, Germany, England, and Austro-Hungary were need to establish their power over the Balkans. This resulted in a series of wars that ended up with the beginning of the First World War. The concept of nationalism supported by imperialism became a reason for Europe's disaster in 1914. The anti-imperial movements that developed everywhere were nationalists inspired by a sense of collective national unity. European idea that societies should be organized into nation state came to be accepted as natural and universal. At the end, the European ideas of nationalism were not seen being repeated anywhere as people everywhere had their own concept of nationalism. But all these events and processes came up with the idea of organizing societies into nation states that were accepted as natural and universal. That's the end of the chapter, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Thank you. Keep learning sharp.